Hey friends, Peggy Hall back with you, and we are talking about grieving your losses. Regardless of where you were or what you were doing during these last 3 years, we all have had losses. We've had a loss of our way of life. We've had, for some of us, a loss of our income. We've had a loss of family members, not that they've passed on, although that may have happened to some of you, but we've had broken relationships. We've had a loss of trust in those we thought were elected to represent us. We've had a loss of faith for some people, thinking that God had abandoned them because how could things be this bad? People have had all sorts of losses over these last few years. And even though right now I'm recording this and it's the end of March 2023, and believe it or not, the county of Orange in California is still in a cooties emergency. They never voted to end it. They thought that it would just go away once the governor said so, but no, the law says they have to vote on it. That's what my lawsuit is about. So I've been grieving. I've been grieving the loss of, let's say, respect. Not that I really respected politicians in the past. I kind of didn't really even pay them a lot of attention. And as long as I was living my life, earning a paycheck, enjoying my family and so forth, I didn't give it a lot of attention. I didn't follow even national politics that much, which is ironic because I have a degree in political science. And when I was in college, I really liked all of that. And I went on and I got a master's degree in international relations because I was always curious about other cultures and countries. So it has been a fascination of mine, but it was reawakened a few years ago when all of this accelerated tyranny, came sloshing all over us. So over the last few years, we've all had losses. We've all had things that we need to grieve. And I think that for many people, now that the push for all of the cooties cocktails and all of those restrictions of, think back, right? They wanted you to stand on a circle in the store. In some stores, they wanted you to walk up one aisle and down the other. All of the plexiglass, which still is around in California, I don't know about where you are, there are still people wearing the suffocation devices. That's kind of like a trauma to the senses. It was horrible what happened, the gaslighting, the authoritarianism, the destruction of our way of life, the suicides, the child abuse, the animal abuse, the spousal abuse, the increase in drugs, the people losing their jobs, their homes, the families being broken up, people actually dying or being killed. It's absolutely just heart-wrenching. I can't even think of an adjective that describes how the soul anguish that so many of us have experienced. Now, there are those that I will say I actually even know personally. Maybe we're not in touch anymore because of the broken relationship, but I tell you, they sort of sailed through it. They sailed through it because they didn't face reality. They bought what they were told, hook, line, and sinker. In fact, I remember actually going to dinner with one group of people in particular, and this was in 2019. And the husband was all excited saying, did you see he didn't say Granny Gates, I say Granny Gates. Did you see Granny Gates special that was on Netflix about all the jabs in Africa and how he's going to save all the children? And I'm like, well, if he can do that, why doesn't he do it in the United States? Why doesn't he use his power and money towards solving homelessness? I was just met with like the blank stare, because they're not informed and they're not educated and they don't have the knowledge. So they just buy what they are told on the news. That was a couple months before all of this happened. So now in retrospect, I realize, because I don't watch TV, that special must have been placed there on purpose to help people believe that becoming a human pincushion somehow is healthy for you. So when we're thinking about, there are some people that actually didn't have a lot of losses. They went along with everything. They wore the suffocation devices. They had the nasal assault. They had all the jabs. They probably want more. And I know this because they've told me this. And somehow, maybe they got a placebo or something. I don't know, but they're still standing. Maybe not. Maybe there are things that are going on that they're not telling me about. Maybe they're having some issues and so forth. But psychologically, they're like, oh no, this was great. I helped save the planet. I helped save humanity. I kept people safe because I stayed home. I saved lives by suffocating myself. They actually believe this. So maybe not everyone has something to grieve. And I'm talking about people that were retired, that are grandparents. So, they were able to see their grandchildren because even the kids had the suffocation devices and they had all the jabs and all of that. So their lives pretty much went on as normal as possible. They thought that it was great. They wanted the government to tell them what to do. I've got another video that I'm going to put on my channel called "There Are Two Kinds of People." And I'll give you the punchline. Those that believe in self-responsibility and those that want the government to tell them what to do. Okay, those are the two broad categories that I throw people into. And I don't know that there's a lot of gray area there. I think people either want to be taken care of or they want to take care of themselves. And those that are unable to take care of themselves, we should take care of them, not the government. So there are people that are not grieving, but by and large, all of my lovely friends that I've met like you over these last 3 years, going on 4 years now, we have so much to grieve. And let me know in a comment the losses that you've experienced. And more importantly, have you grieved those losses? And that's the topic of today's show. I know that it's no fun to shed tears. It's demanding emotionally to think about our losses. Some people actually, it's the opposite. They are stuck in those losses and feel that they can't move forward, that they have had their life be so uprooted. And I remember one healthy American writing to me saying, "Peggy, my life as I know it in California was completely over. I had to start a new life. So I decided to start it in Arkansas." She said, "I had no more friends and family that I could talk to in California anyway. And I lost my job. And I decided if I'm going to start over, why not start over in a new place, start over in freedom?" So she did that. And it's very important that she and we all take time to acknowledge what was lost, what was destroyed, not to be stuck in it and wallow in it. There are some people that are like that. Just today, I met somebody, just an acquaintance, and it was just constant complaining of how bad everything is and how it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And I'm like, I'm not going to go down that route. It's like when I was healing from my eye surgeries. I was not going to go down the route of, oh my gosh, what if I go blind? What if I can never see again? I went down the route of my vision is going to be better than ever. I'm going to have a beautiful procedure, a beautiful recovery, and a beautiful outcome. And that was the only focus that I would allow myself to have. So even going forward now, my focus is not just, I'm not staying stuck in the losses, but we do need to acknowledge them. I'm looking forward to brighter days ahead. More and more people are waking up. We're having lots of victories. They pulled back from all of the, a lot of the cooties hogwash. They're not pushing that and enforcing it as much as they were. And a lot of that is going to continue to recede. We've also seen and I know, trust me, I've done lots of videos on the New World Disorder and on the Agenda 2030 and the 15-minute cities and the 5-minute cities and the smart cities. And I'm aware of all of that. And I expose a lot of that on my Healthy American channel because I want people to be aware and alert and awake to what is going on. But there is a city, actually not too far from my home, called Temecula, and the school board actually is hiring an anti-CRT specialist, which is the critical race theory. So I'm showing you this as an example of victories that can be won. So I am not going to be looking at my future with a sense of dread. I know that I am always going to find a way to experience joy and life and love and excitement and innovation and creativity and discovery and knowledge and learning. I will never stop doing that, even if the hogwashers tighten the noose, because there are so many things that we can do that the government can't touch. Even when I was going through my vision challenges, I said, you know what, I can always love, I can still enjoy food, I can still pet my animals, I can still smell things, I can touch things, I can have a laugh. All of those things would be untouched by my vision. So we've got to think about that. Okay. All right. So having said that, and having our place of positivity and hopefulness for the future, I believe that it's very important to take time to grieve your losses. I do that in a couple of ways. I like my journaling, and I will write out things that are bothering me. So loss of friendships. Some of you may have had loss of your health, loss of income, loss of opportunity. You may have found that you moved and you didn't want to move, but you had to because you were basically pushed out. So these are things that I think it's very, very important to take a moment and acknowledge. And the way that I do that is to write about it. And I'll write usually about 5 things. Number 1, what I am angry about. I am so angry that this ridiculous, oppressive, immoral government in California is destroying the state. I mean, I'm outraged, and I will write about that, and I'll get it literally off my chest. And because it's on paper, it can get out of my body, because if we hold on to the grief and the losses in our body, you will, I promise you, have physical and health issues. It's just inevitable because those emotions have to go somewhere. And if they're stuck, they're going to manifest in different kinds of conditions, illnesses, diseases. That is my belief and what I have experienced in my own life. So I would write all that out about the anger. And then you can write out sadness. I am so sad that California is not the California of my childhood. I'm so sad. And you could fill in the blank. It could be heartbroken, depressed, any emotion that kind of goes under the heading of sadness, right? Heartbroken is different than anger and disgust and indignation. Those are very, forceful, hot emotions. And then the sadness is just very like a low, it has a different feel to it. So it's important to feel that if you want to really grieve your losses. And I'll write it out. What is heartbreaking to me, and what I see, the destruction and the intentional destruction of the state. It's absolutely heartbreaking. And then I'll write about my kind of regrets, like, oh, I wish I had done this or that. Maybe I could have had a greater impact, or, maybe I should have moved, or whatever the case may be. You can write out anything that you regret. And when it comes to losses, you may say, oh, I regret that I didn't spend more time with that person. I'm sorry that I didn't do X, Y, and Z, or that I did X, Y, and Z, and I wish that I hadn't. In my view and in my experience, it's very important to write out those regrets. I have a video on this channel called How to Change Your Past. I think I might redo that video because there's so much that I want to talk to you about. In fact, why don't I do that next week? How to Change Your Past. I'll build on what I spoke about before and give you some ideas. It's very, very powerful. It gives you a superpower. It changes your outlook, and it helps you going ahead in your life. So you write about the anger, the frustration, the indignation. You write about the sadness, the despair, the sorrow, the heartbreak. You write about the regret. Why didn't I? Why did I? I should have, I shouldn't have. And then you get to the place where you can start to write about your understanding. And you can say, I understand that evil exists. I understand that, like the friends I was telling you about, that they just don't have the intellectual capacity to dig deeper, or they don't have the desire, they don't have the courage, they don't have the will, they don't have what it takes to face reality. So I understand that not everyone is like me. I understand that not everyone wants to dig deeper and to look at the other side of things. I understand that. So that actually is a key point in the loss. You may have had a loved one that passed away and you were at odds with, and you never got to heal that wound or that relationship. You still can do so. You can do it through prayer, through writing a letter to them. You can do it by visualizing that you're speaking to them. I mean, I've done this a lot with my deceased loved ones, where I'm having a conversation and I imagine what they're saying to me, that all is forgiven and all is well. And, that is all behind us. So it's very, very powerful. And I would suggest you exploring something like that. There's no right or wrong way of doing it. These are just ideas. And then the last emotion would be acceptance. Acceptance does not mean approval. It does not mean that you forgive and forget. You probably will never forget, but it means that I am going to leave this where it is, and I'm going to move on from it, or maybe even integrate it into my life, take it with me in some manner as appropriate, but I'm not going to let it be a weight around my ankles. Friends, there is a time for grieving. The Bible even says there's a time for every season. There's a time to laugh, a time to play, a time to work, a time to rest. I'm paraphrasing horribly, but you know what I mean. And so often in our society, we are told to just put it behind you, let it go, move on. And that is like having, let's say that you have a wound that you didn't clean out, and now it's getting infected, and you're trying not to pay attention to it. Cleaning out the wound, grieving your losses can actually make you stronger. It can help you to be prepared to move ahead with what it is you want to do in life. It can help you come to grips with what was lost. And I think it's very, very important to do so. Now, here's the best tip I can give you. All right. Something that I've done with myself. As you can tell through my videos, I can go on and on and on and on. And I can tend to do that when I'm writing or grieving. And I don't want to get lost in the river of pain. So by putting a time limit on these bouts of grieving can be very, very effective. So I might say, for example, okay, I'm going to write in my journal for 10 minutes. And when 10 minutes is up, if I feel like I want to keep going, I can, but I don't have to keep going until at the point when I'm reliving all of the despair. That's not what I'm suggesting at all. I'm suggesting that you're processing it and expressing it and releasing it. That's what I'm talking about. Not just being stuck in the tears, in the regret, in the pain, in the sorrow. Nobody wants to be stuck there. But if we don't process it, it can actually hinder our growth and our feeling confident and optimistic and positive about what's coming next. I hope this is helpful for you, friends. Let me know in a comment how you process your grief. Are you grieving your losses? Acknowledge them. Thank maybe the previous situations for what you had prior to this. Appreciate that. Maybe vow to appreciate other things in your life going forward now that you know how tenuous these things can be. So that is my message for you today. And I hope that that is bringing you some hope and some help and some healing. All right, next week, we will talk about how to change your past. I think that changing your past and changing the meaning of your past is something that is going to give you so much confidence and power going forward that you are going to just find this as a true epiphany in your life. I know that it was for me, because so much of what we've been through before colors who we are now and who we could be and why we might be holding back. So it kind of ties into the topics that we had about confidence and procrastination and perfectionism. And all of that can be tinged quite heavily by our past. We're not just breaking free, we're actually going to change it. Isn't that exciting? All right, let your friends know to join us here. It's 11 a.m. Pacific every Monday. And of course, I've got my Healthy American channel in the afternoons at 5 p.m. Here on YouTube. And I'm on all the backup channels if this channel ever goes down, and always over at thehealthyamerican.org. All right, see you soon, everybody.